We are glad to demonstrate our POV-Ray render workbench here on the FreeCAD users conference. So our workbench is for rendering photorealistic images from FreeCAD scenes. So just let me show you where everything started. We, the ray tracers, had a workshop together at Fabulous St. Pauli. This is a fab lab in Hamburg in Germany, and everything started in this room here, where we met, and after the workshops we had some discussion about how to render things in FreeCAD. The result of our discussion was that we both found the existing rendering or ray tracing workbenches not so useful, and we will now short demonstrate why this is so. So we will render a little fish with an old ray tracing workbench. We choose this workbench in the menu, then we have to create a project, and here you see the first little bit insufficient thing, so it doesn't accept a perspective camera. So I skip this and then I change the camera and try this again. Now we have a POV project file, and I copy these objects into the POV project. Takes some time, but now they are here. Then I set the camera, it's like the view. Now I press the render button, and it will render this fish, but you can see it uses another camera or another perspective. So to close this picture you have to click into the picture. Now we have it in a new tab. This was a state of the art in the year 2019 when we started to develop our workbench. We both found that it was hard to apply textures to the renderings. And the second thing we found is that everything would be rendered as a mesh. Now I will start a short demonstration of the POV-Ray rendering workbench. I will go to the part workbench. I will add some simple shapes, a box and a sphere. And now I will change to our POV-Ray rendering workbench. If you haven't installed it yet, you can get it easily through the add-on manager. And the second step is that you have to install POV-Ray and give the workbench the path where it will find POV-Ray. So it's always good if you save your FreeCAD file. I will create a new directory for this. Give it the name test, and there's test 2. So now you have to press this button and then select a project file, or to create a project file. It's always good to do this in the same directory. You can give it the name test2, and then I will quickly apply some textures to our objects. We have two objects here in the left list. I choose the box, and I will apply some stone texture, and I will apply maybe a glass texture to the sphere, and then you can immediately start the rendering, and it will look like this. Remember, you always have to click into the picture to get rid of it. And we can go through this workflow again, and we can apply some other textures, maybe some wood to the box, and some polished metal to the sphere. Start rendering again, and it applies the texture. Now we will make the rendering a little bit more interesting. So the first thing I will do is to change the background a little bit. So I add a new color here. Then I will create a second fish. I will do this with the draft workbench and explain it later why I will do this. I make a clone of the fish because the part is rotated. It will rotate too, and if I put it into the part, it's in the right orientation. And you see this scattered surface of these two fishes. It's artificial because of the rendering of the graphic card. To prevent this, I will scale the second fish a little bit, but only very little bit. And as you can see, the scattering disappears. And now I will go back to our Porphyry rendering workbench and I will apply the textures. The white part of the eye will get a stone texture. For the inner part of the eye, I will use the color of the object in freecad. The fish will get some very interesting pattern here, and the second fish will get the milky glass textures. And now we start rendering and see that is a very interesting picture and result. You can see now why I created two fishes in the same position. The red stripe is the inner fish, and the glass texture is the outer fish, and both is matched together in this object. Now we will go a little bit behind the scene. I will close the rendered image by clicking in the middle of it, and then I will change to the directory of our project. You already know the ini file we created before, but there are some more files that were created while rendering. So the first thing we will look into it is a fish porf. It's a porphyry file. I open it, and here you can see the scene file of porphyry. The first thing is the camera, the lights, the background, and then we named all objects in the scene, so you can see where the eye is, where the pupil is, where the first fish is, and the second fish comes here. So everything is very clearly structured. So then we will have a look in the second file. This one here is our image we rendered. This one is a freecad file, and now we open the fish mesh file, and as you can see, it's empty. So our workbench will render most objects of the part workbench and a lot of objects of the part design workbench not as a mesh. All of our objects in the scene are natively translated into portrait description language. If objects are not supported, they will be rendered as a mesh, and then this file will be filled. So now we have the textures file. I will also open it, and there you can see the declarations of the materials we use in our scene. So here's the material of the eye, here's the material of the first fish and the second fish. There's no declaration for the middle of the eye because there we use the color from our portrait file. So the last file is a user ink file. It's a very interesting file. I will open it and you'll see it is empty. This file is interesting not because of it's empty, but you can put your own scene descriptions here. I will do this. So I will now render an object that you will not find in FreeCAD. It's an infinite plane. In FreeCAD you can only create finite planes with a defined size, but Portrait has the option to create infinite planes, and now we will see how this works. I will save this file, and this file will not be overwritten if you render the program, the fish again. So the first thing I will do is to change the perspective a little bit so that we can see the plane afterwards. And now we just render again. And what you see is a typical checker pattern. So the checker pattern is not very beautiful. It's for now only for demonstration purpose. I will show you now how you can make really photorealistic images with some simple steps. I prepared a file from you. It's depending on our fish, and now you can see a fish in a glass bowl. So I just added 3 objects to the last scene. You know, the fish is here, then I added the glass. It's from the part workbench. Then I added a table. It's a simple box, and then it's a interesting object. I created a water surface. This is a plane which is cut with a sphere. And now we go through the rendering steps again through the workflow. So I start with a native project. I always name it fish. So then I will go through the textures. Now they're empty. Remember, the eye will get the marble texture. The pupil will get the black color from the FreeCAD file. The inner fish will we will apply this interesting gradient peel pattern. The outer fish gets the milky glass. Then we have the new object. It's a glass, the bowl. There we use crystal glass. The table will get some wood structure. It's pine. The pine which we will do a thing we haven't mentioned yet. You can scale every texture. I will apply some values there. And for the water surface, there's also some prepared textures. I move the take the moved water, and I also will scale this texture. Okay, so then I will start rendering the scene. Okay, so this is the first approximation to our image. I will just do some corrections. I will enlarge the image. Okay, and I think I will give the table, I will scale the, or rotate the texture a little bit around the Y axis, maybe 45 degrees. We will look how this works. Okay, and maybe a little bit translation would also be good. I'll take 50 and I start rendering again, so you'll see the image gets larger. Okay, so now we will do something very interesting. We will add an HDRI image. I prepared 2 of them, and now I will start rendering again. And now you see our fish and the table and the glass are in an environment. So the interesting thing in HDRI files is that you can move around in the scene, and if I choose another rotation, I will have another view on the scene. Okay, so we keep this, and now we will add some lighting. You can choose 3 kind of lightnings. I will choose a point light. This will be in the middle of the scene now, and I will translate this. You can't see it because it's only a little cross. It's in the middle of the fish. So, and now I have to guess where the light comes from. I think a little bit from upwards. So now we render again and see the influence on our scene. So I corrected the light manually a little bit, and then we will proceed. Then we will apply some other changes. The first thing, we will skip the freecad light. If you start rendering, freecad light is always from direction of your camera, so from the direction of your view. I also wanted to change the table a little bit. So it's always an approximation. And then I go to the next step. I will use indirect lighting, and I use the outdoor high quality light, and I start rendering again, and now that will take a little bit more time. So this is a very nice looking scene. So I just will do 2 little corrections. The first thing, the fish was a little bit too dark, so I will add another light, and I will transform it again. So it should be inside the glass, but outside the fish. So, and the light should not be so bright. I can change this. or the color of the light. Here we just change the grayscale, but it's also possible to use colored lights in the scene. So this is a little bit darker, and I will also do this with sunlight, because the table was a little bit too bright. It will not match so good with the scene. Okay, so I will render this again. So I'm satisfied with this scene now. I think it looks really nice. So to finish this, we will have a short gallery where you can find some images we rendered with our workbench. It's not only artistical photorealistic images, also technical drawings and so on. So as you can see, we can do a lot of fantastic things with our workbench. It's even possible to beam the fish directly to South Africa. In the background you will find a HDRI image of Cape Town. Yes, we are very glad to be part of the freecad users conference in South Africa. Thank you and goodbye, and enjoy our workbench.